25 years or so, and took what I learned not to do there and began to develop some consulting tools. So I've been doing this now for, my goodness, 25 years, I guess, something like that. I mean, you have to be a little strange, but I think it's cool because what it means is that you're basically starting a new job like every 6 weeks or so.
That's cool.
Mhm.
You don't lose interest that way. I wouldn't anyway.
No, that's true. That's true. And the world continues to change around you.
Mhm.
Keeping up with the stories in itself is a task.
Yeah. So much information flying at us.
So Robert, the story behind the story of you creating the when you were as a chemist, right?
Yeah.
What was the story that got you there? And then what was one of your quantifiable results that you feel pretty good about?
Well, so I'm a child of the 60s, I guess. So during that time, that was the space race, and everybody's trying to figure out how do we get to the moon and the whole JFK speech and all of that stuff. So we were all going to be scientists. That was what I wanted to do. And my dream, well, at first I wanted to be an astronaut, but then I grew too tall. So, and then I wanted to be a chemist, and I worked for Dow Chemical and Dow Corning Corporation up in Michigan, which in itself is the story of leaving the sunny South and moving to Michigan, of all places, where we stayed for 7 years. So that gave me enough snow stories to last a lifetime. But my dream as a kid was to come up with stuff that I could see on the shelf in a grocery store or a hardware store or something like that. And I just came along at a time when so many things were just new. The company I worked for was kind of a cutting edge company. So I ended up, it's like almost everything that you did, you could file a patent on. And I did that. And, came up with some cool stuff like paintable caulk, silicone caulk.
Mhm.
That was one of the things that my invention, and the white coating on the space shuttle. So they had several coatings that were approved. Mine was one. I don't know if it ever went into space, but every time I saw one of those go up, I always thought, maybe that's my stuff. I don't know. But, I just thoroughly loved that. It was just a joy to just come up with new stuff and meet new people as a result of doing that. So loads of fun.
I know when you presented at CEO Space, you were showing different companies that made transitions and survived and didn't.
Right.
Were any of those any of your clients that decided to survive?
Let's see. Not die. Well, yes. So not the ones that I used at CEO Space.
Okay.
So these actually took place after CEO Space. One of the groups that I work with now is Duke University CEO. What do they call it? Continuing education, where companies literally go in and say, "Hey, we've got a problem. Can you help us identify what's going on and address it. Well, one of those groups was during the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. So
Mhm.
remember back that far, this was so serious. John McCain and Barack Obama were running for president. And there was talk about suspending the campaign because the recession was so dire. But they didn't suspend the campaign. But one of the groups that was up and coming at the time was Dubai. So Dubai was building their various hotels, and the Burj Khalifa, which is the tallest building in the world, at that time was only half finished. And they were trying to figure out, so how do we survive this recession? And they called up Duke. Duke put a team together. I was one of the people on that team to go over and work with the royal family to come up with a strategy for surviving the recession. So they're probably the most prominent group. But interestingly enough, 3 years after that, we got a call from the Federal Reserve Bank in New York. And the Feds, who during the time of the recession did not have a very favorable image. There were people like Rand Paul and his son who were talking about, hey, let's get rid of these guys. They aren't really doing us any good. Along comes the recession, and they start doing some things, and they kind of credited themselves with pulling the world from the edge of financial disaster.
Wow.
So, I'm sorry.
No, I just said,
Oh.
wow.
So then they invited us to come in, and they said, why do we have to wait for an emergency
Mhm.
to do things that we knew to do right all along? So that was our job, to help them figure out how do they change their image and get ahead of the curve as opposed to trying to catch up, with the curve.
Wow, amazing.
So those are probably the two that are most noted.
So the project you're working on now, are you able to talk about that and what kind of dynamics are going on and what the future looks like for that group?
I am, so it's not a secretive project. It's so interestingly enough, all of the work that I just described to you was outside of Charlotte, which is where I live now. And when I first started in this business, met with the county commissioners and came up with some stuff. And they decided they didn't want to go down that path. It was too political, too much of a hot potato. So they said, thank you very much. And they went on their merry way. Well, 20 years later, I still have the maps that we developed for them. And all the things that they rejected are the things that we're now having to deal with now. One of those things was issues around race and race relations. And we had a shooting in 2016. Guy was killed. As a result of that, there were protests in the streets. They literally shut down Charlotte for about a week. And they began to ask, how in the world could this happen in Charlotte? And Charlotte was always thought of as a kind of a genteel southern town, certainly not like Birmingham or places like that. But lo and behold, here we are on the news for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And they formed a committee. I got invited to a meeting. And in this committee, you know how that goes. People would just sort of talk about stuff. And it was
Right.
helpful just to talk.
Mhm.
But then they said, well, why are we doing all the talking? We got communities out there who need to have these kinds of conversations. So I said, I've got some tools that I've used in other places around the world. I've never applied it to talks on race and race relations. Let's give it a try. So that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And ever since then, we've been bringing these communities together. A few thousand people have gone through this now. And we keep meeting these interesting people. So I'm sorry for making this a long story, but a year ago, no, 4 years ago, there was a guy who came to one of my sessions. And it turns out that this guy, 50 years ago, was in high school with a black guy. They had the same last name, and the black guy was a star athlete. He was a football player. We have here something called the Shrine Bowl, and the Shrine Bowl is an all-star game for North and South Carolina ball players. And this guy wasn't selected to play. I mean, he was clearly the best, but he wasn't selected to play. And the white guy wrote an essay about the black guy, and it got him into Harvard.
Wow.
So he got a PhD as a clinical psychologist. And in 2016, they ran this series of stories about the history of the Shrine Bowl. And the white guy who still lives in Charlotte saw this story and said, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. So they hadn't seen each other in 50 years. He called the newspaper, got the guy's contact information. They began to talk, only to discover that the white guy owned the black guy's family in slavery. So we have now connected, and we've expanded this whole conversation in the communities using that as a hook. There was a group out of Minnesota who just finished a documentary about their story.
Wow.
So that's kind of what I'm working on now.
So with the results so far, what's been the most rewarding with what you're doing now?
Well, the rewarding part is that people are talking. Communities that would never have had conversations with each other are at least talking. Okay, they're curious about each other. Everybody has had their own perception and definition of race relations, what's good, what's bad, what's working, what's not. But I mean, it's kind of like noses. Everybody's got some opinion, but at least now they're talking and they're trying to make some things happen. So, my role has been to just bring these groups together to start a conversation. We say if you can't talk about it, then you certainly can't influence it in any other way. So we're starting there.
That's wonderful. I appreciate this journey that you've been sharing with us because we get to know each other better that way.
Yeah, it's so true. So I was pausing there. You're asking what was rewarding. So the other piece was it's curious for me to hear how other people, oh, I should say other people, how everybody interprets and sees race and race relations. So when I'm talking with an Asian group, they never talk about Black people. I'm talking with a Hispanic group, they never talk about Black people. So everybody sees it through their own lenses.
Sure.
Most of us think, hey, it's just a black-white thing, but it's a multicultural issue. Everybody's seeing it and describing it in different ways. And I'm realizing that it's kind of like the old game of Battleship, where we take these shots and we don't know what we're shooting at. You know, everybody's got this their own image of what the thing is.
Yeah,
I'm learning, I'm sure, much more than they are.
sure, because you're facilitating. Akram, are you able to join us? And Ash, are you able to join us? Take your camera on?
I'm on. I'm driving, but I can.
Akram, my friend, how are you?
Hello, sir. Good to see you.
Good to see you, my brother. Ah, there you
Yeah.
are. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Ash, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Did you say Ash or Akram?
Ash. Because I don't think Robert's met Ash yet.
I don't think so.
No, give me 1 second, okay?
Okay. Akram and I went to an event yesterday, and we were interacting with those who were hosting booths. And it was really interesting because we were really diving into individuals and what their story is, how they got into their business, or where they're, just the human side of the connection.
Mm.
We learned some really powerful things from different people. And so we hang out with Ash.
Hey.
He's on the East Coast. So Ash, introduce yourself.
Hi there, Robert. Bob, good to meet you, okay?
Good to meet you, Ash.
My friend. Yeah. So I'm a holistic business consultant. I originally, I run a multiple groups and things like that. And I do a lot of training, consulting work for a lot of wellness-minded individuals or financial professionals. And my story is, I originally came here with 20 bucks to know English, and I grew up in Maryland. And I was a financial planner for 27 years. When I started, I was in bed. I was pathetic. I had to blackmail my dad through my mom to get the first sale in the door. And eventually, I figured out my way, and I was managing over $300 million. And then I sold everything about 3 years ago. And I started doing speaking, training, all that since about 2008. I have helped over 5,000 entrepreneurs and received a congressional honor for my work. And now I just do what I love to do, which is to help businesses every day.
Great.
That's my game, my friend.
So where are
But
you,
that's what I
Ash?
do.
Where are you, Ash?
I'm in Maryland.
Okay.
I'm in Maryland. How about you? Where are you?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
In North Carolina.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
I like Charlotte, North Carolina. We just passed by there a few days ago. So
Oh, sorry.
yes.
Yeah, it's a great town.
And yeah, we might be headed to Chicago, sometime in May, most likely.
Yeah.
So. But
So
anyway, so yeah, so
so
go ahead, my friend.
Debbie and I are all on the East Coast.
Yeah. So I do like daily wealth manifestations with people, and my goal is to really help people with 5 areas of life in health, relationship, business, finance, and spirituality. And I do it twice a day, every day. So right now I'm partnering with a lot of influencers, if you will, or beginning to partner with them to, come on, because I do manifestation in the morning at 8, and then I do it also at night at 8:30. So it works out well for everybody.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. And Carol just texted me, so I figured, okay, let's hop on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had Ash as one of our guest speakers with his financial chakra program that he has. And so there's been a big yearning, right, for community. I had a bunch of texts from different people who said, it's hard to get a perfect time for everybody, a perfect day and a perfect time for everybody.
Mm.
but I record these sessions so that people can go back to them and build those relationships.
Mm.
So I can read your the bio on there. And I know we just went over some of your background. But I'll make the introduction and
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking to. So you talking to me
Yeah.
or Bob?
I'm talking to the group.
Okay.
So Robert, how many patents do you have?
18.
18 patents. And what are the categories that you've got patented?
Well, they're most in polymer chemistry.
Okay.
And there are a couple in team building and team dynamics tools.
Oh, wow. So your patented experiential tools comprise of essential elements for your unique seminars and workshops. They form the basis for engaging, probing, thought-provoking presentations for which you're known for. Most noteworthy is the BCube. What brought that idea to you, the BCube?
Okay, Carol. So this is something I ran into when I was like 7 years old. I'm in the grocery store and the store with my mom. The store is selling these encyclopedias. And I open this book and there's this poem of the blind men and the elephant
Oh, yeah.
who are trying to figure out what an elephant looks like. So depending upon the part of the elephant they touch, they each form their own mental image of this elephant. So everybody's right, but everybody's wrong. So fast forward about 35 or 40 years after that, I'm working in corporate, and this is about the time when diversity starts to become a hot issue. And, everybody's kind of throwing ideas around, and I'm realizing that this is the blind man and the elephant experience. And everybody is seeing it from their own point of view, and everybody's right, but everybody's wrong. But if we could have some way of putting those pieces together, we'd have a better representation of what reality is than each person's individual thought. So I said, well, it'd be great if we had an experiential tool that would allow people to see just that. So I developed this box, which is a tool for teams of 7 people to go in and identify various things, move them around inside the box, and connect their mental models, if you will, of what they're touching. They can't see it, obviously, but connecting those mental models and coming up with something as a collaborative group that is much more accurate than any of them could ever mentally see or come up with individually.
That's really cool. So your book, The Touch of Reality, what's the story behind the story of the book?
Yeah, so that's kind of the story behind the story of the
Okay.
book. So when I developed that tool, I began asking, so how do I write about this? How do I describe this experience? And how do I then take this experience into other aspects of business, beyond diversity, beyond team dynamics, business itself? And this was again during the time when what was it called? Bill Clinton was president,
No.
and we were looking at, and I can't remember what the term was now. We were forming these groups, these national groups.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it'll come to me. And, you know, I was realizing that the issues with our Mexican arm of the organization wasn't connecting with the Canadian and the German arms of the organization. So again, this is a box, a blind man and the elephant scenario, and realizing that that story has legs in any place where you're having to connect people with other people. So from a business standpoint, from a team building standpoint, from a diversity standpoint, and we began using that across the board. And then the book came out as a result of that, A Touch of Reality.
So in in the dynamics of that, I've seen the box, obviously. I think one of the things I found intriguing was the individual skill sets, their strengths and some of their weaknesses would show up with the ability for analysis of better use of personnel in different places.
Right. That's right. That's right. So something that's become popular in the last few years is the use of these personality assessment tools like the DISC profile or the FIRO-B or the NEO, the Big Five. Everybody's got some version of a personality assessment tool, which is great and people love them because as you go through it, you feel like, hey, somebody is understanding me, somebody gets me. We don't often do or don't really have tools for doing is asking ourselves, so how do these people connect when given a real task to perform? We don't often have any kind of a response to that until there is some real-time, real issue in front of them. And then we bring people together and we kind of hope for the best. And we call ourselves a team. But in reality, all great teams spend more time practicing than they do performing. Okay, which is why they can perform well, because they have the practice field time. In business, we don't have a practice field. Okay, what this tool does, the way I've been using this tool, is like a personality assessment first, and then you put people together to do various exercises in and around the box. And you essentially put legs on the personality assessment from each person. And that allows you to literally practice what does it feel like to come together and accomplish something with other people who are different from me in a low risk but a high impact environment, so that, you know, if we screw up there, small children aren't going to die around the world, or, you know, something like that. But at least we begin to know what our various strengths and what our various deficiencies are, and how we can come together in order to get rid of some of those blind spots. So yeah, that's been a very important part of this from a business application standpoint. How do you get organizations to explore their capacity to make a difference without having to go out and literally play the game in real time? The question I always ask is, so what difference does the difference make? You know, we're trying to get people who are different from us, look different, different backgrounds and all that stuff. You can get that, you can check those boxes, but then the question is, now that we have put that together, what can we now do that we couldn't do before? And that's what one of the things that the BCube allows us to explore.
Interesting. Well, I'd love to welcome you to our meeting this evening, and love to see your presentation and what you have to share with us. Thank you so much for coming and joining us and building more community with us.
Thank you, Carol. So it's been a long time since we've seen each other. It's good to share the same space with you and Phil and Akram, and good to get a chance to meet Deb and Ash and your other friends. All right, so let's see if we can get things to work here. All right, are you seeing the screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I thought I'd talk today about thinking like a leader. You know, what do leaders think like? And it's a pretty important topic, especially as we're living in an age of so much change. And it's not just that there's so much change, but change seems to be occurring faster than it ever did before. There was a guy who was the director of planning for Royal Dutch Shell. His name was Ari de Heers. And Ari says that when you begin looking at organizations and you ask yourself, so who's going to survive? It's not often the group that has the most money or the greatest resources or the number of plants on the ground or whatever that is. But he says that the greatest sustainable capacity that organizations have is the ability to learn faster than other organizations. So the question is, how do you do that? And back in the 90s, there was a guy, Peter Senge, who wrote a book entitled The Fifth Discipline. And in this book, he began exploring what does it take for organizations to learn faster. The subtitle for the book is The Fifth Discipline, The Art and Practice of Learning Organizations. So it's an old book, but it's a great book. And there are various versions of that book that have been written since then. But I'll just start there. So when I began thinking about what leaders think like, I thought, let's see if we can reduce this to four key qualities. So I just want to take you through that in the few minutes that we've got here. So let me just give you an overview of what we're going to talk about. So the first thing that leaders are going to have to do, or that we're asking them to do in this day and age more than any other, is to lay out a clear vision. This is not rocket science. So I'm smiling because I know we got Deb down there in Cape Canaveral, but this is truly not rocket science. Lay out a clear vision so that other people can see themselves in the picture. We're going to talk about that. And then we want to ask leaders to express a mission, a clear mission with briefs and debriefs. We're going to talk a lot about briefs and debriefs and what that is, and what the impact is. And then we're going to talk about leaders being able to practice curiosity, keeping the question on the table even after we think we have a solution. And then finally, we want to look for possible solutions, not just answers. So if you have to cut away, these are the four things that I'm going to talk about, and you have basically the kernel of my presentation tonight. But if you're going to hang with me, then let's get started and see where this goes. All right, so the first one is effective leaders have a clearly defined vision of what success looks like, helping others see themselves in the picture. All right, so by the way, I can't see you. And if you want to jump in, make comments, ask questions, please feel free to do so. And, I just welcome the engagement back and forth here. But effective leaders have a clearly defined vision of what success looks like, helping others see themselves in the picture. So let's talk for a minute about this whole idea of vision. Not a new idea. I mean, every organization has some vision that they've got either stuck on the wall or something like that. that has been written usually by a committee of some sort. What we usually think of when we talk about visions is a set of words that kind of come together in a way that people can remember. Maybe it's a little flowery, but it says something, okay? The part that I want to focus on here, though, is the second part of this phrase, and that is, it is a set of description that describes what you want the future to look like, and it helps others see themselves in your picture. So if you're a leader, if you have an organization or you're working with an organization and you've got some vision, everybody's got some vision, even though it may not have been clearly articulated, it would be helpful if you did articulate it. But that vision, if you really want to connect other people to your vision, other people have to see themselves in your vision. They have to see themselves in the picture that you're describing. Your vision will describe the future that you want to emerge as a result of doing whatever it is that you do when you're in business. It's basically asking the question, so what difference am I trying to make? If I can actually accomplish what I'm doing, what is going to be different in my community and the people around me in the world as a result of doing that? But then this other little piece is critical. If you want other people to be a part of that, if you want other people to buy into it, if you want other people to hire on to it, you want to be able to describe a vision so that other people see themselves in the picture. If you're like me, you've probably had the occasion where you go to visit a friend, they've gone to a wedding or they went on vacation or whatever, and they got all these pictures, went on a cruise, and you weren't there. They had a great time, and they're reliving this experience through these pictures. So here you are, you're sitting at the table or a sofa, and they're going through this stuff, and you don't know the other people who are in the picture.
Right.
But they're all excited about this experience that they've had. And you have to sit there politely wondering, how long is this going to take? How many pictures do these people have? And because you're not in the picture, that vision, that set of pictures has no relevance to you. But if you're in that picture, then you keep looking to see, so where am I showing up in the picture? Years ago, when Barack Obama was elected president, they had the inauguration, and the mall was just filled with people. And you had these photos of the folks just looking like ants. Well, I walk into a guy's office, and he's got this photo on his wall of the mall during the inauguration, and he's excited, and he says, you see that spot right there? And he's pointing to something on the picture. He says, I think I'm next to that spot, whatever that is. I mean, you couldn't even tell what it was, but because he knew he was in that picture, that picture really meant something to him. So when we talk about visions, when we talk about the difference that we are hoping to make as a result of doing what we do, we need to be able to describe it in a way that other people can see themselves in the picture. If they can't see themselves in the picture and they work for you, then all they have is a job.
Yeah.
If they can see themselves in the picture, many of them will actually work for you for free. Okay. So describe it, be clear about what it is that you want to do. So you can't just say, hey, my vision of creating company XYZ is to lay on a beach, put my feet up, and rub suntan oil on me or whatever that is. That's your vision. But nobody can see themselves in that vision. Describe it in a way that they can see themselves in the vision. So we're asking, so what future or new reality do I want to emerge as a result of executing a successful business strategy? Again, it's asking the question, what difference do I want to make? What do I want to see come out of this? And the compelling vision has to be more than I want to earn so much money by a certain time. Well, that's fine, but what this is asking is what uh, what difference is going to emerge as a result or while you're earning this money. All right, so there are groups that go through this all the time. They're always asking this question: how do we help other people see themselves in our vision as an organization? And I'm calling it orthodoxy. Orthodoxy, weird word, it simply means how do people see themselves as clients or as your customers? Okay, so you've got an organization, when they show up, when they call you, when they come through the door, what shows up in their minds as a client and as a customer? All right, so I'm just going to go through a few of these that are clearly asking themselves that question. Okay, and all I have to do is simply show you the logo, and you will know what does it feel like to do business with these people. Ready?
Yeah.
Then we want to say, all right, so we've talked about that. So let's start with this one. Everybody know these people. So what does it feel like to go to a McDonald's? What do you think? How would you describe that?
You're consistent. It's a set price. You know what you're getting no matter what.
Yeah, no surprises, huh?
No surprises.
Yeah, and the McDonald's people years ago, so they still got the Big Mac, but years ago they had the Big Mac song. Remember the 12 beef patty, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. You know, you think about that. That's kind of weird. I mean, how many organizations actually have a jingle about what's in the food?
Yeah.
We think, hey, most organizations are trying to hide what's in the food. These guys are being so consistent that they are going to tell you exactly what's in this sandwich every time you get a sandwich. Every time. When I do this talk with other groups, sometimes people will say, you know, when I'm traveling, I'll stop at a McDonald's because the consistency translates to what it's like just to go to a bathroom. You know, I know what I'm going to get. Okay, I'm not going to like a gas station where, hey, who knows what I'm going to run into. So anyway, so yeah, consistency is the name of the game for the McDonald's people. Right. All right. So how about these people?
Burger.
Flame broiled.
Okay, I'm sorry. Say it one more time.
Flame broiled.
Flame broiled.
Yep.
Okay, so different taste than the other hamburger. If somebody else is trying to jump in there. Oh, don't be bashful.
Were they the ones that had the jingle, have it your way?
Yes, they certainly are.
Thank you.
Yep. So you got the McDonald's people who are basically saying, hey, it's going to be consistent. If you want this sandwich, this is exactly what you're going to get in this sandwich. The Burger King people are the people who say, have it your way. Yeah, they actually had a jingle of
Right.
hold the pickle, hold the lettuce, special orders, don't upset it. So that's the Burger King people. One of the things I get to do in my job is just test some of these things. You know, just go to a place like you go to a Burger King and just come up with a weird order and see if they can do that. So if you go to a McDonald's and you say, you know, give me a Big Mac. You know what? I don't want any pickles on that Big Mac. So hold the pickles, you know. What will the Big Mac people tell you? Will they make that sandwich for you? Yeah, they'll make it for you. But they will tell you, you know, if you want a special order, we've got parking spaces up there. You pull up and you're going to have to wait for us to make that sandwich. That is not something that's in our regular DNA. Okay. So you can get it, but it's not going to be normal. You go to Burger King and you say, and I've done this, okay, where you say, all right, so give me some fries and give me what's their sandwich, the Whopper, and something to drink. And I want to let's be healthy today. I don't want any meat on that Whopper. You know what they'll tell you? That'll be $4.95, and you just drive right through, and you get exactly what you're asking for. So there's a feel for each one of these, and they know that there's a feel. They create that feel, and if you want to feel like you want it consistent, no surprises. If you go to McDonald's, that's exactly what you're going to get. You want to feel like, hey, I want to be creative, come up with my own version of the sandwich. Don't go to McDonald's. Burger King, those are the people who know how to do that. Okay. So how about these people? You guys have these people?
Yeah, the Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I know they're big in North Carolina. How about Florida and
Oh,
Maryland?
they're big here.
Okay, okay. How would you describe the orthodoxy? What does it feel like doing business with these people?
Christian values first comes to mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you know that?
Be-
I don't know, they don't advertise it, do they?
No.
Well, they're closed on Sundays. around
Sundays,
here.
yeah, closed on Sundays, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Right,
closed
right.
on Sundays. They seem to be very supportive of single moms.
Mhm.
And they have special programming for their buy-in for their franchisees. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, nobody else is closed on Sunday. Burger King, McDonald's, those guys are open even on Christmas. Okay.
Yeah.
You go to Chick-fil-A on a Sunday, you're not going to find them.
No.
But hey, obviously they're making money because they're expanding and they're doing well. The Chick-fil-A line in my neighborhood anyway is often on the street.
Mhm.
So people like Chick-fil-A. And even though you may not agree with all of their values, as you call them, Christian values, um, their interpretation of Christian values include things like, we aren't supporting gay marriage and abortion, all those things. Okay, those are their values. That's what they say. People still respect them for at least living up to that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's exactly what you get. The other thing that you get is courtesy. You go to a Chick-fil-A, you put your order in, you get your burger, your fries, whatever, and you go to the window, and what happens at the window?
I've only gone a couple times, but the customer service seems to be very personalized.
Yeah. So they got this phrase that they will always use. It says, "My pleasure."
Oh,
I go to a McDonald's, and sometimes, I have to thank the guy or the girl who's at the window, and they won't say anything back to me. So it's like, hey, here's your food, where's your money, kind of thing. Go to a Chick-fil-A, and there's always this air of courtesy that seems to be there. They say, "It's my pleasure." Okay. Now, and I can't swear that happens to every single Chick-fil-A, but 95% of them will show that air of courtesy for people who are at the window. Now, are these special people? Are these special folks at the window? No, they're teenagers, just like the teenage pool that the Burger King and the McDonald's people pull from. It's the same, and not special teenagers. They're not some alien teenagers that know how to be polite. So these are the same people, but somehow the Chick-fil-A in their training create this vision, this image of this is how you treat people when they come in to get food from you. And it shows. All right, so I want to test this out. I went to a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta a few years back, and I asked to see the manager. This guy, 23 years old, comes up, and I told him who I was, and I do team building, team dynamics, stuff like that. And then I was just curious about how Chick-fil-A does what they do. How do they do that? All right, so I'm going to play a little snippet of this interview with this guy. All right, so listen carefully.
So I think it all starts with people. You know, besides corporate, you know, our corporate purpose, you know, which is to glorify God by being a faithful steward, by all who's in by all that's entrusted to us, and by all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A.
Right.
Besides that, which of course is the corporate culture of Chick-fil-A, it all starts with our people. And we have a three-step interview process that really filters out someone's character. Because for us, it's all about the character. We want people that want to serve guests. That's what we look for. And that's why you see throughout Chick-fil-A why we continue to have, I think this is our 45th year of consecutive sales growth. Actually, maybe the 47th, but that's why we continue to grow, because we have people that want to serve you. We really do. You know, and does it get mundane? Yes. Does it get stressful like any other job? Yes. But at the end of the day, we have people that internally want to serve their guests. And that's what I think rises us above, you know, the Chipotle and the Panera, which in my opinion is our strongest competition. Because while we have quality food, we also have people that want to serve guests.
Right.
Yeah, so our vision statement for this restaurant and for the restaurant down there is to deliver the ultimate guest experience by giving quality food in a clean and safe environment by people who care and are willing to go the second mile to make a difference. And, you know, everybody knows that, you know, because if you don't give quality food, but you give a great experience, it still doesn't matter. They came to Chick-fil-A because they're hungry,
Right.
you know? But if you give quality food and you give a terrible experience, sometimes you become like McDonald's. Not to use another brand, but that's their problem right now. Or if you give, you know, maybe you don't have people that care, you're still going to have a problem. So you got to deliver on all those points to have a really great experience.
Sure.
So it's not just service, it's not just quality food, but it's people who care. People, I'm telling you, are the reason that Chick-fil-A continues to grow.
Okay, could you hear that?
Yeah.
All right, what did you hear? What stood out for you?
People.
Yeah.
It's the people.
And again, as we were saying, they have the same pool of teenagers
Yeah.
that the other fast food joints pull from. But, you know, and this is people who just serving you burgers. So they've got a three-step process for going through or taking people through and trying to understand what's this person all about? Do they fit with our vision of who we are? Okay. What else did you hear? Anything else?
He embodied what he was saying.
Mm.
Yeah.
He owned it. It wasn't something outside of himself. He owned it. He identified with it. He aligned himself with that vision.
Yeah, he wasn't just reading off a card.
No.
Yeah, he did not have a card. So he didn't know what I was going to ask. And this is what he came up with. You're exactly right. The other thing that stood out for me, I'll ask you, what did he call people who come through the door? Do you remember?
Family.
Huh?
Wasn't it family?
That family. He didn't call them customers.
No.
Call them clients.
Didn't call them clients. He called them guests.
Oh,
Ah.
yeah.
He called them guests. So, where most groups would say, hey, these are clients, these are customers, he used the term guests, and just a little word
Yeah.
implies for the people that you're training that these people are special.
Yeah.
They're not just here to give you their money and you give them a burger. We want to create an experience for them. All right. So, I use the fast food joint people. Oh, well, the other thing is that it's interesting who he compares himself to. So we're talking about in our little presentation here, I gave you the McDonald's and the Burger King. He did not compare himself to McDonald's and Burger King. He
No.
compared himself to a class higher than that, the Panera Breads.
Yeah.
So as he's creating this image and the vision of who they are and the difference that they want to make, he's using an example that says we are different from every
Yeah.
other quote unquote fast food joint. So I love this guy. This guy was tremendous. And I said he's 23 years old. Okay. So let's take a look at that number 2 here. So vision, creating a vision so that other people can see themselves in the picture. Number 2 was effective leaders have a clear mission. Everybody's got a vision and a mission statement, right?
Yeah.
But clear mission with regular briefings and regular debriefings, okay? Regular briefings and regular debriefings. So first of all, missions are things that often come and go, okay? What's the mission for this year may not be the mission for next year. But as they have these missions, there's also something called the briefing and a debriefing, okay? So the vision gives you a reference point for making decisions about missions. Okay, so the vision is big, okay? The mission is the difference we want to make as a result of doing what we do.
Right.
What the mission is something that comes along day to day, week to week, year to year. And the vision gives you a reference point for deciding which mission to take on. Because you're simply asking yourself, if we take this mission on, is it going to move us toward the vision that we have set for ourselves? Okay. Because remembering the mission takes us a step towards something. Does it take me towards the vision? So if you don't have the vision, you don't have a context for making a decision about which missions to take on. And remembering that whenever we say yes to something, then we're always saying no to something else. So just because a great idea comes through the door and you say, oh my goodness, we can make a ton of money if we do this. The secondary question is this taking this towards the vision? Or maybe we should ask ourselves, is the vision that we laid out for ourselves the vision that we see ourselves accomplishing? Is that vision accurate? We can make adjustments in the vision. There's nothing wrong with that. But as soon as we say yes to something, we're always also saying no to something else. Conversely, when we say no to something, we're always saying yes to something else. Okay, so you start with a vision, and then as these missions come along, the vision gives you context as to whether or not we should say yes or whether or not we shouldn't say no. Is it moving us in that direction that we say we want to go in, or is it taking us someplace else? So one of my clients is this group, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds. They're located outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. They're in Nellis Air Force Base. And these men and women are just consummate professionals. If you've never gone to an air show, either by the Thunderbirds or by the Navy counterparts, which is the Blue Angels, I strongly encourage you to find out where they are showing around your area and go. It is well worth it.
Yeah.
But what I asked them was like I did with the Chick-fil-A guy. So how do you guys do this? I mean, so when I look at this picture, the distance between the wingtip of one plane and the canopy of the next plane is anywhere from 18 to 36 inches. That's how tight this formation is. So you have to have a high degree of trust for the people who are flying next to you.
Yes.
So when you come in and you become a member of the Thunderbirds team, everybody knows you can fly. I mean, hey, that's just 101. The question is, can you do that? And what does it take to make that happen? Well, they were giving me some directions, and they were just chatting with me about how do we make this happen. And a tour of duty with the Thunderbirds is typically anywhere from 2 to 4 years. Okay? And what they told me was what's important is something called the brief and the debrief. The briefing is what takes place before the show, okay, or practice. So there's the brief and the debrief take place before and after each show and each practice. So the practice isn't just that we go up and we fly. I mean, they act in the practice as though there are thousands of people watching them go through their maneuvers. So the brief is the meeting that happens, and it simply says, this is what we're going to do today. Okay. It lays out the picture, the visual picture of what that looks like. And these people, when I say it lays out the picture, I want you to imagine these pilots sitting in a conference room around a table. And you remember when you were kids and you would, hold your pencil and you'd fly the pencil? That's what they do. Okay. So they're sitting there, these professional pilots, and they're holding a pencil or a pen or something. And as they're talking through the various maneuvers, they're moving this thing through the air. So they're briefing what's going to happen. And this is important, as you might imagine, especially with different weather conditions. Sometimes it's a great sunny day and you can see forever. Sometimes it's a low cloud cover, and all of those conditions will change or alter what the show looks like. So they can't just come in and say, oh, we just do the same show. Not the case. All right, so the briefing actually tells them and creates the picture. This is what we're going to do. So they go out, they do the show, or they have the practice, and they come back and they have what's called a debrief. And the debrief simply allows each person to talk about, this is what happened. This is what I saw. This is what I saw somebody else do. This is what I did that was either working or not working. The debrief begins with the person who is in charge, okay, the number one pilot, first saying, this is what I could have done better, okay? Not pointing out other people and what they could have done better, but it breaks the ice. It shows that there's a level of honesty and trust in that room. This is important to these folks because if someone sees you doing something that you shouldn't be doing and you're traveling at 500 miles an hour, there may be a chance that you don't come home that day.
Yeah.
The debrief and the brief are critical for these folks. The other thing that's here is that the brief and the debrief should take place close in time and space to the event. Okay, so they'll have the practice and they don't wait for the next day or week and say, well, let's talk about what we did the last practice. Immediately, as soon as they can climb out of those jets, shake hands with the crowd, and come into the conference room, they talk about what happened. And this isn't just the pilots. This is the mechanics and the crew. Everybody's there because they want to get the perspective of everybody who had eyes on this event. They want to know, how can we make sure that we all come home that night? So close in time and in space to the event. We've all had jobs where we have the performance appraisal, because that's what the official name kind of is. And that often takes place like every year. Maybe if you got a good organization, 6 months. And you think you've had a great year. Your boss says, it's December, and he pulls out, hey, remember when you screwed up back in April? And you want to say, I screwed up in April. Why didn't you tell me in April? Why do we have to wait till November or December to tell me that? But that's the way many organizations work. We have the performance appraisal period. And unfortunately, by the time it gets to the point where they're sharing with you what you needed to do to improve, that time has passed. So the brief and the debrief should take place as close in time and space to the event as possible. So we see this every football weekend. We're watching a football game and a player makes a great play and all of his buddies slap him on the head or pat him on his butt. Everybody knows exactly what that means. That's on Sunday. If they separate the event from the brief and the debrief so that the good play takes place on Sunday, and you see him on the street on Wednesday, and you walk up and you slap him on his head and pat him on his butt, that has a totally different meaning than when you do it at and around the time when the event took place. Okay? So you need to have the briefing and the debriefing. What this does is that it gives you an opportunity for sincere recognition in the moment. Don't wait a year. Say, hey, if you've done a great job today, you need to let your employees know today. That was wonderful. It feels sincere. People will do almost anything for you if you simply say thank you in a timely manner. Opportunity for timely corrections and adjustments. Again, if they screw up in April and you don't tell them until December, now they've gone 9 months with this behavior that they thought was okay, and you could have corrected them. So having it occur close in time and space gives an opportunity for timely corrections. And the learning then is faster. Okay? When they know what to do in order to do better the next time around, and you have made that correction close to when the event took place, then you're accelerating the learning. All right, so number 3, just got 2 more here, is effective leaders practice curiosity. And we learn to ask better questions even after we think we know the answer. Okay, so it's kind of like this picture. Okay, this is a picture of the elephant, and I suppose I'm going into this room, and all I have is a flashlight, and and the room is dark, and I want to see what's in the room. Well, my beam isn't wide enough to see the entire room. So all I can do is sweep the flashlight. And as I sweep the flashlight, I'm seeing portions of this beast. And then in my mind, I then have to connect those dots. So I end up with the elements of what's in the room, but it's a distorted picture. It's not an accurate representation of what's there. But if I can begin to ask questions, if I can begin to surface the gaps in my picture so that I can insert the gaps, I can begin to reduce the distortion in the picture. I don't even have to fill in the gaps in the picture. In fact, in real life, you'll never be able to fill in all the gaps in the picture. But if you're at least curious enough to ask questions so that you can begin to explore and discover the parts that you don't know, then you can begin to minimize the distortion of the picture. And then fourth, effective leaders look for possible solutions, not just answers. As I get older, this one becomes more and more important to me. Often I'm trying to leave my house and I lose my keys. I can't find my keys. I'm looking all over for my keys and I can't find them. But what happens is, as I'm looking for my keys, I find all kinds of other stuff that I lost. So, you know, I'm finding other items, other stuff I wanted to explore while I'm looking for my keys. But when I find my keys, I stop finding new things. So in my line of work, I try to steer away from using the term answers, because answers suggest that we have an air of finality. Okay. Once I find that answer, then I stop looking for stuff. Okay. But I like to use the word solutions. We look for solutions because in my world, solutions have a half-life. No solutions will last forever. Okay. You were talking earlier about what I'm doing now, and I'm working on issues of race and race relations. Well, what I know is that the solutions that we come up with for this community right now probably won't work 5 years from now, because the demographics are going to continue to change. The economic situation is going to continue to change. Technology is going to continue to change. All those things are going to reshape what the solutions need to be for race and race relations. So what we need to do is learn how to ask better questions and keep the questions on the table, even after we think we have found solutions that work. So I began thinking about, how did we get here? You know, why is it that we're so answer focused? You know, give me the answer. And, you know, in my little head, I kind of began thinking about life in 3 segments. One is birth to 8 years old. And in that range, so the rules of kindergarten apply. Okay, working with others. It was the guy who wrote the book, Everything I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. So these are the rules that apply here. In this time frame, we look for others to connect with. You know, so Carol, you know, you were talking about with this environment, you want to give people a chance to connect and collaborate. When we were kids, we were doing that. We have to, as big people, have to give it a name. So we call that interaction play. Kids don't need a name for it. They just go out and they just do it. And they connect with other people. But in this environment, we have this shared imagination. You know, we know about the other kids, and you know, we have a shared imagination, and in shared imagination, we know who the other kids' imaginary friends are, so we don't step on them. Okay, we know the names of the imaginary friends. So I'm using this fancy shared imagination term because that's a term that we often use in the business world. But kids are already doing this. Kids learn to test the edges of the current reality. You know, you say, I was in the airport the other day and we were waiting for a plane to be announced. And there was this mother who had this little boy, must have been about 3 or 4 years old. And he was just playing round and round in a circle. Okay, so he's looking to see, so what's mom going to say? Mom doesn't say anything. So what happens? Well, the circle that he's playing around and around and gets bigger and gets a little bigger, until finally mom says, all right, come back here. All right, so kids are always testing the edges of current reality. How far can I go before somebody says stop? We have this shared vision. So you have kids that go out and they come up with this game and they make up games. They make up play stuff. Everybody knows what the rules are. There are no rules written down, but they have this way of having this shared vision. And at this stage of development, kids' learning is exponential because they're connecting with other people. You rarely send your kid out and they come back home and you say, hey, what did you learn today? And they say, I didn't learn anything. They're always learning something, even if there's stuff that they didn't tell you what they learned. In fact, later on, as they get a little older, you're going to ask, where did you learn that? Well, they're learning it from other people, other kids that they play with. So in this range, collaboration is synonymous with learning. Connecting with other kids and objects helps kids learn, and that learning is exponential. But then after about 8 years old, we go to school. And in schools, the rules of the classroom apply. This is where we learn to be individual performers. So what are the rules of the classroom? Well, it's to keep your eyes on your own paper. Don't touch anybody. Don't say anything to anybody. You're working on your own. It's in this arena where the team concept is formalized. We start to have Little League, we start to have soccer, all these things where the team concept is formalized. And we start to use sports metaphors to describe what kids are doing. Learning time is structured and official. We call that the classroom. In the classroom, kids learn that the reward is in the answer. So the teacher asks the question, all the little hands go up, and teacher calls on Johnny. Johnny can answer the question. Well, Susie's hand was also up, but she didn't get called on. But Susie knows that because she raised her hand, it indicates that to the teacher, if you call on me, I can answer this question. So the reward is in answering the question, or in showing that I could answer the question if you asked me. Okay. So what happens? Well, in this time, kids learn to fake it, some of them, and they realize, hey, everybody in the room can't know the answer to the question. So there are going to be some kids who will raise their hands even if they don't know the answer to the question. Because at least if we do that, everybody didn't know that I don't know the answer to the question. So I'm going to play the odds. I've got a 1 in 20 chance that she's really going to call on me. And those are pretty good odds. Okay. So if she calls on somebody else and everybody thinks I knew the answer to the question, I'm happy. Okay. So we learn that the reward is in the answer, not in the question. We'd love to have kids say, I don't know the answer to that question, but I sure would love to have somebody teach me. Rarely do kids say that because that's not rewarding. Playtime, where before it was exponential learning, playtime is now limited and structured. We have to give it a name. We call it recess. Okay, so we got classroom time, and then we've got structured playtime. And in this arena, collaboration is synonymous with cheating. Okay, so I wish I had $1 for every time I had a group of young people say, we've got this team project. We don't know how to do that, because we're not sure if who's going to get the credit if it goes well, or who's going to get the blame if it doesn't go well. So we have this thing where we call collaboration and cheating being the same thing. And in this arena, now we have created a disconnect between learning and collaboration. Now, this is a big deal because I'm saying from like third grade and up through the educational or the academic experience. So this is through high school, this is through college, this is through graduate work, this is through postgraduate work. I mean, this is like 20 years of a person's life. Okay. So by the time they get over here to the work culture, and they go in and they sign up and they're going to now work for company XYZ. Now the organization dynamics kick in. So what happens here? Well, you sign up for work, you go to work the first day, and the chances are that they're going to spend more time teaching you to network with the computers than they are with the people. Okay. Here's your password, here's your laptop, all that stuff. Nobody's going to teach you about networking with people, which is why you have your organization like we're on tonight. And part of the thing is teaching people or helping people network with one another. So we realized that there's a need there. In my corporate experience, we actually had awards that we gave at the end of the year. There was an award for what they call the individual contributor. There was no award for the team that worked better together. We recognize the heroes. We like heroes. Team, and this is the title of my first book, the first chapter, is a 4-letter word. So people bring me in and they say, hey, help us to behave more like a team. And I say, well, how much time you got? Well, we got half a day. So you want me to do in a half a day what people have learned to do for 20 years of their lives? It's just not going to happen. So they don't have a value in really what being a team is all about. Until there's a crisis or a threat, or there's some new opportunity, then some well-meaning manager will say, hey, we ought to take a look at working together as a team. Or if there's some potential loss of productivity or dollars, then they want to figure out, how do we now reconnect this learning and collaboration piece? So this is kind of how we got to the place where we even need to talk about collaboration and connecting, because we have untaught what we were doing before we were 8 years old, for 20 years of our lives, and then into our corporate organizations. We have created that disconnect, only to realize that we were pretty smart before we were 8 years old. So how do we get back there? All right, so those are the 4 areas. What we said, give us a clear vision so that others can see themselves in the picture. Give us a clear mission that has briefs and debriefs before and after the event. Practice curiosity, keeping the question on the table even after you think you found a working solution, not answers. And then look for possible solutions, not just answers. All right, so that's our 30 minutes or so for tonight.
That was fascinating.
I really enjoyed that.
I did too.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I did. And with my doula, with my doula certification program, that briefing and debriefing right away.
Mhm.
I put the students into a berth as fast as I can, and then I believe the exponential learning is really in the activity itself, with one human being to another.
Right.
And then afterwards, what worked well, what could we improve?
Right.
So,
And remember, I said that the leader of that team begins by talking about him or herself. And that way you kind of take the fear, I guess, I use the word confessing what you think your faults were during the event. Because a lot of times, hey, people, you go to work and people will say, hey, I've been hired because I know what I'm doing. So here we are actually saying you need to create a level of trust that's high enough so that people are able to ask questions and say, I'm not so sure about that. You know, it's like that elephant. You know, you insert the gaps of what you don't know, and you can begin to reduce the distortion in the picture.
Well,
So
well,
much
nice job,
fun.
Bob. Good job.
Thanks, Phil.
There were
Should I-
so many nuggets in that.
Go ahead, Ted.
I said it.
Yeah, there were like bam, bam, every time you made a turn. It was very impactful. I really, really appreciate it. We didn't get to introduce you to Rita. She is from Germany. She's a friend of mine. She's right now, she's in California. She was at Jill Lublin's birthday party the other
Oh,
day.
yes, yes, yes.
And so she's joined us. She's on her phone.
I'm here.
Hi, Rita, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm not sure if my video is showing, but I'm in a place called Novato. Is my video showing? Can you hear
No.
me?
Well,
No,
we
we
have
can
your
hear you.
picture. We have your picture, but not the video.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure how to put on, but yeah, I joined late, but I'm glad I did join because it's so true what you say about the humation. Like I was in the air training corps back in the when I was young, and the briefing and debriefing happen immediately, but your like doesn't happen until it's already, you know,
Mhm.
and they want to make improvement. So as much as it was able, I'm grateful for the advice that you've given.
Thank you. Yeah, and unfortunately, we use those terms often to find who screwed up, you know, as opposed to figure out how do we accelerate our learning. And there's a powerful opportunity there for learning and not necessarily for casting blame.
So true. So true. Yeah, you were talking about the Blue Angels and all that. I have
Yeah.
an Air Force station that it's not even 10 miles away from here, and it's not Air Force anymore, it's Space Force. And we're constantly seeing, I mean, we have an air show every year here.
Mm,
And we're constantly seeing flights going, helicopters, fighter jet. It's constant. It's just amazing to watch because you know they have to be precise
yeah.
completely. And I don't think I've ever put that preciseness into my own business.
Mm, mm.
So thank you for that. That was really, I was like, a key that I've been missing. Thank you so much. The briefing and the debriefing daily is great. You know? I'm a solarpreneur, so keeping track of myself is a really good idea.
Yeah, yeah. So if you ever get a chance to watch the Blue Angels or the Thunderbirds,
I've seen both of them.
okay. So I would encourage you to go to the staging area where
Okay.
they get into the planes.
Okay.
Okay, because there's a whole precise ceremony that they go through just
Oh,
getting into the plane. So the precision, the mindset begins before they start flying,
yeah.
you know?
I
So
can only imagine.
they're just getting in, and you can go on YouTube and find great videos of that taking place. So just imagine that the mindset of precision has to begin before they get in the plane, before they take off.
I know somebody that used to be a colonel over there. I might have to ask her to see if she can get me in over there.
It's worth it. It is
Yeah,
well,
yeah. I don't know if she can or not, but it's worth asking. I mean, that's so militarized right now. It's incredible. You know, you can't get on that property.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah. My dad was a trainer pilot in the service, and my brother flew with the Navy to fly into the hurricanes.
Oh,
Mm,
cool.
He was on
storm chasers.
the hurricane team, so
Wow.
so
Well,
but
everybody's,
I love my wings. I love flying.
yeah. So while everybody's trying to get out, your brother's trying to get in.
Yeah. So I appreciate this. Deb, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you
And
for inviting me. I really am glad I made it.
I know I love the community that we have, and it
Thank you for inviting me.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Oh, my pleasure. I appreciate the invitation. So it's been a long time since I've done this with one of your groups. So this was a real treat for me.
Yeah. We hope you're able to come out sometime out to Denver. We'd love to have you. And I'm going to have your recording up for the whole year so people can come back to it.
Okay.
And in the recording, you want to tell people how they can get a hold of you?
Sure. So my email address is real easy. It's Robert Johnson Speaks, SPEAKS @gmail.com.
Okay.
There are a couple of websites. One is robertjohnsonspeaks.com,
Okay.
which talks in general terms about some of the groups that we've worked with. There may be a couple of articles there as well. And then there is another one which deals with the race and race relations work called Learning from the Future.info.
Okay.
Learning from the Future.info.
That's fascinating.
That's
Sure.
you. Learning from the future.info.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
We have to stay connected more often, and love to have you back here in Chicago sometime.
All right. You got a deal.
All right. Well, it was nice meeting you, Phil. It was
Good to
nice
meet you,
seeing you
Debbie.
again for a change. I've been missing your face and your sense of humor too, you know.
Thank you. Well, so I'll see if I make it tomorrow morning.
Okay. All right.
No
Y'all have a
guarantee.
wonderful evening. Thank you again,
All
Bob.
right.
I really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Debbie.
Lots of
Right.
nuggets taken out of that one.
Thank you. Take
Mhm.
care.
Good night.
Good
All right.
night.
All right. Good night, folks.
All right, Bob.